So for today's weekly Jinx video, for those that don't know, every Wednesday on this channel we do a Jinx video of some sort with anything to do with Jinx, and you decide that topic in the comment section down below. As well as this video acts as a weekly discussion thread video on the Jinx subreddit, League of Jinx. Feel free to check that out. And for today's episode, we're going to do what we do every 2 weeks, is discuss how we think Jinx is going to be like in the new patch, what changes happened to her, and if no changes happen to her, then what changes happen to other AD carries, so that way we can talk about her lane matchups and how those might actually be changing. Kind of AD carry tier list, if you will, so that way you can dictate which AD carry is going to be more or less of a problem for you as you lane against them as Jinx, as well as an excuse to kind of go over some of the patch notes in case you're someone that doesn't, read the patch notes. I'll go over them for you, at least those specific parts of them. Also, what we're going to be doing a little bit differently today is also talking about Jinx's status as kind of one of the top, if not the top AD carry, at least in solo queue in terms of win rates across multiple MMRs, not even just low elo anymore. Why that might be, that I'm going to give credit though to Nathyield. I feel like I'm saying their name wrong still, but they kind of asked this question and kind of gave me a little bit of information about why that possibly is. That kind of relates to some information we've talked about in past videos as well. So I'm going to give credit to them as well. We'll first go over, though, the AD carries that are changing this patch, since Jinx directly is not getting any changes. And one of the first ones we're going to actually talk about is Graves. Even though that's not really a lane matchup, whenever he is strong, his ganks work in a specific way. And so what's changing, and what you might want to be aware of if you're playing as Jinx, you are far up in lane, and what Graves is going to probably be trying to do if he ganks your lane, because you are immobile, especially if you don't have flash. Here's how this works. His base stats are going from attack damage growth of 2.14 to 3, and his magic resist growth is going up from 0.5 to 1. But his W, the smoke screen, was going to probably try and gank people with for the vision denial. The windup is actually going from a quarter second to 0.15 seconds. So not really that much of a change, but it is a little bit quicker of a windup. The vision reduction, though, will now apply more quicker. So just kind of something to be a little bit aware of when it comes to dealing with Graves if he does end up becoming meta. Misfortune is the next change. With the new skin, obviously, they had to do something. They usually try and buff champions where they release them with a new skin, especially an ultimate skin. So the attack damage growth is actually being increased on her base stat from 1 to 2. Don't know if that will really affect the lane too much. Misfortune already is kind of known as a lane bully, so this might just make her lane bully harder. In a lane where if you're playing Jinx, you might have been playing it a bit defensively anyway, depending on who you ask and depending on the support champion that you were playing with. So that might actually not be that different. Kai'Sa might be one of the bigger changes when it comes to this matchup, because like we talked about kind of in last week's video, depending on who you ask, at least when Kai'Sa was first released before the hotfixes, some people would like taking things like Jinx or Caitlyn or things with range into Kai'Sa to just really bully her down. Her attack range was only 500, and now it's being increased to 525. That now matches the minigun. Now granted, Fishbones, the rocket launcher, will still outrange Kai'Sa as the lane goes on, but now if you try to autospace her with just the minigun, and let's say even level 1, that's not going to be the case anymore. She now has the same attack range as Jinx's minigun. When it comes to her second skin, her passive, the plasma stack is also getting a little bit of a ratio increased, and also the missing target per health per 100 ability power is also going up a little bit. Acathian Rain, which range was actually only 575, is going up to 600, so you can use that probably to trade a bit more aggressively now, especially if you are in minigun form. The ratio is also going up in the ability power, as well as each missile. The Void Seeker's ability power is actually going down. They are nerfing AP Kai'Sa. That is actually crazy powerful. If you've seen some of Skarzard's clips from his stream, that actually can be some really a fun time. I usually play AP Kai'Sa now in ARAM after watching him play that, because it is pretty powerful. They are lowering the ratios, but most likely you're not playing against AP Kai'Sa in the bottom lane. If you are playing against AP Kai'Sa, it's most likely in the mid lane, in which case you're playing mid lane Jinx, and that's kind of a different story like we talked about last week. On her E supercharger, the cast time, there are some tweaks. The movement speed minimum is going up, and the maximum is also going up. So just be aware of that if she is trying to chase you down as she's trying to trade with you. The lockout's still there. She won't be able to attack while using it, but she will actually be able to move a bit faster. And then on her ultimate, the Killing Instinct, the radius around enemy champions is going up from 500 to 525. So in other words, when she would mark you with, say, her W, there used to be this indicator that comes up of how long and far away you can be, that she can still jump to you. They're increasing that, so she can jump to you from further away. Not necessarily from the entire range of the W though, but if she hits you with W and moves closer to you, now she has less distance before she can reactivate it and jump to your face. So that matchup, I don't know if that particularly changes all that much still. for lane. A lot of these changes are going to be more beneficial for Kai'Sa out of lane, in which case that's a different topic to talk about. In lane, the one biggest thing, of course, is that her attack range will now match your minigun. So auto spacing her with the minigun no longer will really be a thing. That's going to be more dependent on Fishbones, the rocket launcher. Lucian is getting some changes to his W Ardent Blaze, which the damage is going up a little bit at each rank, about 15-ish to 25 at all ranks. That's not really what maybe he uses the most to trade with you, but it can still help with resetting his passive, so that can increase damage potential in terms of his all-ins, or in terms of when he wants to trade back with you if you are trading with him. His R, however, is getting a little bit of a buff. The total attack damage is going up from 0.2 to 0.25, so a quarter. And the max ratio is actually going up quite a bit to 7.5 total attack damage at max rank. Now for lane, when you'll possibly get this, it's going up from 4.0 to 5.0. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really know the numbers on Lucian's ultimate all that well to know how much this really affects him for the lane phase against Jinx. I know some people will argue that they like playing Jinx into Lucian, and some people just don't like playing Jinx into Lucian and Draven and things that really duel very well. So I think this one's kind of dependent more on you, the player, more than anything else. It is a buff, of course, so it does mean, more damage, but it's not like really a new mechanic. It's not really a range change or anything like that. So right now, if you kind of auto space him or deal with him by just using the rocket launcher a lot often and just farming, you probably can still get away with that pretty well. Try freezing, the lane on him, make him have to overextend and stuff like that. The usual kind of stuff you hear just in AD carries in general. When it comes to Quinn, there are some changes to Quinn. Again, you probably won't be dealing with Quinn in lane. No one really plays Quinn in the bottom lane, but Quinn is kind of a roaming champion, so ganks might be what you have to worry about. So there are some significant changes, like the base attack damage is actually going down to 59, but the attack damage growth is going up from 2.4 to 3. And also there's kind of mainly just quality of life changes. Not really a lot of like direct buffs, and of course lane stuff to worry about. So we won't touch on Quinn too much. The last AD carry change really is Xayah. And really, they're kind of trying to change Xayah and Rakan, because right now, if you play them together, they're really powerful and ban-worthy. But if you play them alone, you can still kind of beat up on them individually. They kind of did some changes to Rakan to make him a bit better of a support champion without Xayah. They're trying to do the same with Xayah a little bit as well, but they understand that they're also pretty powerful. So it's really more of a, let's see, pretty much like this. Xayah and Rakan's basic attacks no longer trigger feathers from each other's deadly plumage. That's kind of really it. Xayah is mostly kind of still the same, and as AD carry hasn't really gotten a lot of changes since her release. She's kind of been generally balanced, and that matchup is still generally the same. But I thought I'd bring that up because if you see a Xayah and Rakan, they're not going to be as powerful together anymore than they will be separated. Even though they are still pretty powerful together because they're kind of supposed to be that duo-esque champion. So now moving on actually to Jinx, really in the meta, why she's kind of the number one AD carry. One of the first things was the fact that the precision bonus set changes. Remember, she did lose the 5 AD to compensate with the buff she got to her minigun in 8-2, and as Naffield explained, actually, you gain some AD that kind of cancels out the nerf with the precision bonus stat changes now, especially scaling all the way to level 18. On top of that, you don't really need fleet footwork all as much for the lane sustain. They did nerf it, but honestly, in lane phase, Jinx was somebody that also was kind of experimenting with Glacial Augment, so not necessarily a huge hit to her specifically. It is useful, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wasn't like a hit or that it wasn't a useful keystone, but it didn't really gut Jinx not being able to use that particular keystone. On top of that, a lot of AD carries are also just kind of not performing as great as Jinx is. A lot of other AD carries have just been hit, nerfed, or don't fit the meta as well as Jinx does right now as well. We don't know probably if she will get nerfed because not a lot of people are really complaining about Jinx being powerful right now. And in terms of her potential in the LCS, one of the things to note is she actually has been played about 35 times and banned about 30 times already in the first 5 patches of this season. As compared to previous seasons, like last season, she was only picked or banned 25 times total in all regions, wildcards, and worlds. So she's already been picked twice as more because of the 8.2 changes. Apparently, pros really value the mid-game, and this gave Jinx a better mid-game. Even though it isn't crazy, even though she can't necessarily take over the mid-game better than other champions, and even though in pro play she might more be picked as a counter to Caitlyn right now than anything else, it was enough to put her in pro play. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, credit to Naffield for the information they provided, and I don't know which video will be next, because life be quite a mess. So until next time, take care from the Fire God IFS. Thank you for watching.